concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. Got something a little bit different today. As you can see, the power is out. Yep, the power is out. But thank goodness for me that I have a solar system with battery backup. As you can see, you got a live status right now, huh? Yeah, look at that. We're consuming 0.7 kilowatts. That's my computer, basically. I know, all the other crap in my house that might be on. There's a little bit of a, you might be thinking, well, if Bardwell has a battery backup, then why was there ever a question of whether there would be a live stream? And it turns out that I only have a 10 kilowatt hour battery, because them things is expensive, and that it'd be selective. Oh, power's back on. Well, ain't that something? What a great time for the power to come back on. Yeah, great. Well, we're going to keep doing the stream as is. Yeah, here comes, listen to the sound of all the other electronics coming back on. It'll go out again in a second, don't worry. You may think, well, if you have a battery backup system, then, why was there ever a question over whether you would be doing the live stream? And so we have 10 kilowatt hours of storage, which is enough. It's not enough to run the whole house off of. I forget what the maximum discharge of that is, but basically we had to be selective about which circuits in our house were being backed up. So obviously, things like the well pump was a big priority, because water's important. But we didn't run the air conditioning, because the air conditioning draws a lot of power and would just suck that 10 kilowatt hour battery down in no time. So I don't actually have my computer, my main here. I don't actually have this whole system on the battery. because you might think, well, wouldn't you want that? Yeah, no, I thought long and hard about it. But the problem is that I leave my computer running all night because, like, it's uploading stuff to the editor and so forth. And I would hate to be in a situation where the power goes. Let's say I go to bed at midnight or 11 or 2 or something, and then the power goes out, and then my computer is just running all night, sucking the battery down. So the next day, the battery is just had wasted electricity. So I don't actually have my computer hooked up to the panel that the batteries are backing up. It's not backed up. But what I did is I took an extension cord and I ran it over to a plug that is backed up by the solar, so that I could be running off the solar to do this live stream. But now the power is back, so it doesn't really matter. Or the power will go out again. I don't know. If the power does go out again, we won't be interrupted though. But just in the hang on. In the spirit of the live stream, we're gonna keep the lights down. We're just gonna keep it intimate. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Yeah, storms knocked out the power on Seeing Whale. We just had a thunderstorm roll in. We're gonna do and I'm wearing my black 533 shirt, so we got an intimate live stream. I would love to have gotten more batteries, but they're freaking expensive. I mean, it was about, I think the solar panels were about, I don't remember if this was before or after the tax credit, because there's a tax credit that means they always give you the prices with the tax credit. And unfortunately, Ciati, the panels, and it was close to that for the battery. So when I thought, oh, should we, now some of that was installation. So they said, well, how many batteries do you want? It would have been like another, I don't remember, 5, 7. It would have been a lot to get another set of batteries. And here's the other thing. We talk about solar, because people seem to people seem to be really curious about my solar system or solar systems in general. So this is my solar array. And this is how much energy they generated today. This is the production for today. And today was a fairly sunny day. I mean, not the sunniest of the sunny day. 18.31 kilowatt hours they generated today. So with a 10 kilowatt hour system, there was a serious question of how, because we never actually have a net surplus. Shada FC says two Tesla Powerwalls give 26 kilowatt usable energy for 15 grand. Here's the thing, Shada. Our solar installer said, instead of giving you an N-phase battery, we want to give you a Powerwall battery because they're so much cheaper. How are Tesla Powerwalls so much cheaper kilowatt hour per kilowatt hour compared to N-phase? And I said, fine, yeah, I'd rather have more. And you're right, the Tesla Powerwalls are maybe half as expensive as the N-phase power battery banks. For like 3 months we waited. They couldn't get a Powerwall. They couldn't get one. They were trying to buy, they couldn't buy one. And finally I said, well, look, you know what? Let's stop waiting. So yes, Tesla Powerwalls are the place to go. See if you can actually buy one, okay? Depends on the market you're in. Some markets you can get Tesla Powerwalls and some you can't. We could not buy one. Couldn't. So I was like, well, I guess I'd rather pay twice as much for something I can have instead of waiting for nothing. Because we were going into winter, and I really wanted to have backup for winter because that's when all our storms are. Tesla doesn't need to make a profit, says Aerobrat. Or maybe also Elon Musk, didn't he make a tweet about like a coup in Ecuador? And it would it had something to do with getting good lithium pricing. I don't know. Anyway, you're 100% right that if you have the choice, Tesla Powerwalls are, as I understand it, the best value for solar battery backup or just whole house battery backup today. But you actually, it's like saying an NVIDIA 3070 is the best value in graphics cards. Good luck finding one. Couldn't find it. Anyway, so we'll talk about quads in just a minute. If you take a look, though, if you take a look at a typical day for me, so this is this blue is how much energy we generated. This orange is how much energy we consumed. And if you take a look, it is never a net positive, right? There is never, we never generate as much as we use. It's impossible, you know, with air conditioning in the South and the number of panels that I have, it's impossible. So there was an argument that it would have been pointless to get more batteries. I mean, you would have allowed us to back up the whole house. We would have needed like 3 batteries to back up the whole house. But I don't feel like, I mean, I'm like, if the power goes out, I just run fans instead of having AC. I don't need to run my AC off a big battery. So just back up the essential loads. Yeah, Shadow FC says, yeah, my Tesla system took 3 months to get. And you could get one. We couldn't get one. Couldn't get one. Anyway, welcome to the stream, everybody. It's Monday night. We're going to do some Q&A. We're going to talk about, Timber Bunny, you're 100% right. I mean, this is with basically no conservation, and air conditioning is a huge chunk of this. So when the power actually goes out, our usage goes down to like a half a kilowatt. And then we could run for 3 days off of it or something, 5 days. When the power goes out, then immediately we're not running air conditioning, we're not running all that stuff. And so the battery is a huge, huge benefit. But there's an argument that if you're only generating 18 kilowatt hours a day, it doesn't make sense to have a ton of batteries that you're not going to fill up anyway. Anyway. Oh, here's what's going on, folks. This is my big main screen here. I'm going to be taking your questions down here in the chat. Taking your questions. If you want to make sure that I see your question. Because look at all these questions going by. Good to see you here, Siati, by the way. Nice to see you. If you want to make sure I see your question, hit that $sign. Hit that $sign right down here. Leave a super chat. Nobody's left any super chats yet. Well, we'll get one, I'm sure. And also these beautiful people over here. I'm going to be taking up the whole other half of my screen. These are my patrons over on my Discord server. Thank you guys so much for being here. There were some people asking about the Rely-On battery. You see, I got the Rely-On back there. I was, in fact, running my computer off the Rely-On battery before I ran the extension cord to plug into my home's power bank. The Rely-On battery was doing fine with whatever, 1,000, just a little less than 1,000 watt hours. It can run this system for a while, but the fans were blowing, and I wasn't sure it could go for a whole 2 hours, but it could have done it. It's great. It does cost $1,000 though. Some people said, "Is that really $1,000?" I don't remember who the chat was from. OGK Kid, that's right. Hybrid grid tie with battery backup. No net metering though. You can either have battery backup or net metering, but not both. Not both. Doesn't really matter since we never have a net surplus anyway. Net metering is just wouldn't help us. That Rely-On battery is $1,000. There's certainly some questions about whether that's a good price. Obviously, you can always build something for cheaper than you can buy it, right? There's labor and polish. I mean, if you buy a toolbox, a big plastic toolbox, and you shove a bunch of lithium cells in there, it won't have the same level of polish. Oh, maybe you don't care about that. If you are going to do the math, though, bear in mind, you've got the LiFePO4 cells, which you could buy lithium ion cells off of, AliExpress. You could source those cells any number of ways, or you could just get lipo cells or lithium ion cells if you don't care about the cycle life and the lack of volatility. I saw a video of a lithium iron cell being punctured by an iron rod or steel rod. And you know what happens to lipos when you do that. And it basically didn't do anything. I mean, it wasn't happy, but it didn't light on fire. I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe you don't care about that. You can source your own cells. As you're cross-shopping, though, bear in mind that thing has a 1,000-watt AC sine wave inverter. So do the math on that. That's another 100, 150, maybe $200, depending. It has a BMS, a 100-amp battery management system in there, which I don't know how much. I really don't know, but I asked a guy who was into batteries, and he said that would cost you approximately $100 to $200 to get one of those. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you don't care about a BMS. Well, I'm just going to charge the battery. I'm not going to run it down. Yeah, okay. And it's got an MTTP solar charging circuit in it. Something makes your solar charging more efficient, and I don't know how much that would be separately. But as you're doing the math, people see that that's $1,000 and they go, oh my God, it's so overpriced, because you can buy batteries for cheaper. Yeah, there's a lot more in there than just batteries. So something to think about. Anyway, lithium iron versus lithium ion phosphate. You can get very cheap LiFePO4 cells from old solar banks, says Beantime FPV. I got 86 4,000 milliamp hour cells for $50. Wow. Yeah, what's the quality? Anyway, you can always build something cheaper, and many people have. In fact, I've been thinking about whether to do a follow-up video on some of the DIY solutions that people have come up with. But for now, we're going to leave it where it sits. Jumper T12 Pro review when? Probably. I have no plans to review the Jumper T12 Pro. What's the Jumper T12 Pro? What is that? Did I already review? Oh, the Jumper T12 Pro. March 2020? Did a new version of the Jumper T12 Pro come out? I have no plans. It's like 3 months old. I don't know. Never. Probably never. Oh, I'm a really bad YouTuber. YouTubers are supposed to just get all the new products and review them and talk about how great they are. I'm just not. I should be more excited about reviews. Max Whalen wants to know, do you think quad skids are essential even when you're using cap head screws? I'm on your QAVS frame and I do not always land softly. Max, I personally don't use skids on my quads. If you do a lot of sliding and skidding, then you may want skids. The other thing to keep in mind is if you like set your quads down on your car hood, don't do. I mean, it's your car. Do what you want, but like I just think of those people just set their quads down on their trunk or something, and I think of those freaking motor screws just scratching up the paint. I don't know if I'm sure that like if you got a beater car, then you just DJAF and you just go for it. But if I was going to put quads down on my car hood or my car trunk, which I wouldn't, because I would be so neurotic about scratching up the paint, I would put some skids on it, which might help. But personally, I don't do a lot of skidding, and I just use the cap heads. So I don't think they're essential. What's the downside of using skids? The weight. It just adds weight for no benefit, so I don't use them. How much weight? Not a lot. Some. Many people are talking about the foam blocks. The problem I've had with the foam blocks is they tear off too easily. So you put the foam blocks on. Okay, my printer's having a moment. You put the foam blocks on and they work for the first few flights, but then they tear off really easily. Bags. What are you doing over there? Bags of PV says skids are nice to protect the hex end of the motor bolts. Absolutely. If I was going to use motor skids, I might consider using button head screws instead, so that the button head screw is flush against is covered by the skid and protected from being scraped off. My big objection to button head screws on motors is, you happy? You done? My big objection to button head screws on motors is that they get ground away and they strip out too easily. So if I was going to use button head screws, I might be more likely to use skids or vice versa. But I just use cap heads and no skids. We got a couple super chats coming in. Why the rubbernecking, Joshua? My printer was making noise over there. That's all. Psych Limbo, thank you for a $2 Chupersat. OGK Kid, thanks for 99 cents. Keebler 137, thanks for a $5 super chat. DJI controller and goggles versus analog or old school. I mean, is there really a competition there? DJI controller is its own argument. I prefer to use a different control link like Crossfire, Ghost, or Express LRS because I feel like they have better performance, and I like the use of my standard controller versus the DJI controller. As far as the DJI goggles go, I mean, this is kind of an argument that's been hashed out a lot, and I don't want to rehash it too much, but you did give me a $5 super chat, so I'll give you something. Obviously, the video image quality of the DJI goggles is amazing. Way, way better than analog. Range is better. Penetration is better. More expensive, of course, but if you're asking the question, presumably the money isn't a concern for you. Analog has lower consistent latency, better for racing, and is cheaper. That's the short version. Hobby Grade, thanks for a $5 super chat. Does Ghost antenna work with Express LRS? The 2.4 gig, yes. Those 2.4 gig antennas are all interchangeable. You could take an RXSR antenna and put it on a Ghost receiver. You could take a Ghost antenna, put it on a Tracer receiver, etc. The only thing I would be concerned about is the IPEX connector. It's possible that some of those, like FreeSky uses a different size UFL connector on their R9 receivers than Crossfire. So even though the antennas would be compatible, you can't plug a Crossfire antenna into a FreeSky R9 receiver or vice versa. I don't think that's going on for the 2.4 gig receivers. I think they all use the same size of IPEX connector. And so I would say yes, you could use a Tracer, Ghost, Express LRS, even a FreeSky 2.4 gigahertz, like an RXSR antenna if you wanted to. They're all interchangeable. Tony Cake has confirmed you can use a Tracer antenna on Ghost, that there's no like secret tuning issue or something. So no issue there. Coelho FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. What would cause the front motors to get much hotter than the rear motors? The CG seems slightly to the rear. That's a tough one. Normally, a quadcopter in forward flight, the front motors are getting clean air. The rear motors are getting turbulent air from the front motors because the rear motors are behind the front motors. And so the rear motors work harder. And if anything was going to be warmer, I would think it would be the rear motors. However, it's usually not that big of a difference. If the front motors are much hotter, the first thing I would do is I would look in black box and I would see if the front motors were spinning at a much higher RPM or a much higher throttle position than the back motors. And that would confirm that they were dragging or something and were working harder. When does the FPV movie come out to the public? Asks Take a Flight FPV. I made an announcement about the Flow State film. There's going to be a private showing in Atlanta. You can apply for a seat. Basically, we're giving away our tickets to a random people. They made a video about. There's a link to a Google form where you can put your name in the hat. We already have more applicants than there are seats in the theater, so I'm happy to say that we will be filling the theater. The theater seats 140 people. We're going to reserve some seats for, like, you know, if Mr. Steele at the last minute says, hey, can I come? We're not going to go, oh, no, sorry, we don't have a seat for you. No, he's welcome to come. You know, I'm hoping that we can get some of the people who were in the film, like Cricket, who lives in Baltimore. Maybe that's close enough that he could make it out. Don't know if the timing will work for him. I'm hoping that we can get some people to come out. But we'll be giving away at least 100 seats, I would say. Maybe 120 seats, something like that. Siati says, Siati, you're definitely coming, right, man? You're coming, aren't you? You live in Atlanta. I hope you can make it. He says party before and after at his place. I reckon we'll have an after party somewhere. We'll go to a restaurant or a bar. I don't know about you, but I'm vaccinated and I'm ready to party. No, shut up. You're coming. You got to be there, Siati. People will want to meet you. You're like a YouTuber. They'll want to talk to you. You have to come. You're not coming to see the film. I don't care if you see the film. I want you to come. I want you to be there. I just want you to be there because it's a big night. Stop trying to, don't be polite about this. Accept your nascent celebrity. Stop trying to be humble. Anyway, when will it be available to the public is the big question. So here's the thing. Ultimately, the goal is to get it onto a streaming platform like Netflix and so on. And somebody in the YouTube comments said, oh, I see. Are you just in it for the money? You just want the money. Why don't you just put it out there for free like some of these other FPV documentaries? And I was like, what other feature-length FPV documentaries have there been? I don't think there have been any. Do you guys know of any other, like, I don't know, even a 20-minute YouTube video, like a documentary about FPV? If there is one, I want to watch it, first of all. I want to see it. I'm really sure there haven't been any other feature-length FPV documentaries. So this idea that, all the other guys are giving theirs away for free, I don't think there are any. I don't know what you're talking about. But number two, it's not just about the money. It's about getting your mom to see this film. It's about getting normal people who are just browsing. They just got done watching Tiger King, and now what are they going to watch? And they see this documentary about FPV. And they're like, oh, what is that? And they watch this documentary and they get exposed to FPV. That's the real reason. It's somewhat about the money, don't get me wrong. I personally have put about $20,000 into the film. In exchange, I get an executive producer credit. That's what executive producer means, if you didn't know. Basically, you just put up a load of money, and you get to be executive producer. Producers actually do work. Executive producers just put up money. So, yeah, I would like to make that money back. James Christensen, James Christensen is my partner on the film. He has put approximately 400 hours into editing the film. It is a feature-length documentary. It's a film. It's not just a crappy YouTube video. No offense to anybody who makes YouTube videos. And, he put that time in for free. He just said, I'm going to just put my time in. And then we agreed. We basically agreed. I'm going to put money in. You're going to put your time in. And together, if the film makes money, we'll split it up. So we both like the film to make money, but more importantly, we would like it to be accessible to everyone around the world, not just the small. We want 1 million people to see it, not just 20,000 people to watch it on my YouTube channel. So when will it be available to the public? Right now, here's how you get a film on YouTube, on Netflix or Amazon or whatever, according to James Christensen, who has, by the way, one of his previous films was on Netflix. So he knows what he's talking about. He did it once before. The first thing you do is you make a film. Okay. And then you shop it around at festivals and you try to win awards at festivals. And ideally you win like best documentary at Sundance. But maybe not, because that's a pretty high bar. But the goal is to get some awards at festivals, and apparently the buyers from Netflix and Amazon and all those, they go to these festivals and they look for films to buy because they're like hungry for content. The problem is that the festivals don't want a film that has already premiered. And if we show it to the public, if I put it up on my YouTube channel or whatever, then it will have premiered and they'll be like, sorry, we don't want it. So it cannot be available to the public until it is picked up by one of these, until it wins the awards, and then ideally, probably not until it's picked up by one of these streaming services, because obviously a streaming service wouldn't want it if it was out there for free. So it will be available to the public whenever it gets picked up, or at some point we'll just go, I give up, I guess this isn't going to happen, and then we'll find another way to distribute it. In the meantime, you can come see it in Atlanta on July 17th, I believe. July 17th. There you go. I mean, Regis, you can get obviously, if you have connections, you can get the film onto a streaming service without winning awards at festivals. That is also an avenue we're pursuing, but ultimately, there's many different avenues going on there. Anyway, let's see. Looking back for, looking back for anybody. Michael Dashevsky, the distribution, we would obviously want the distribution to be worldwide and not region locked, obviously. So if you're in Australia or wherever, our goal would be to make it so you could see it too. Leak in the Discord server, Leak, has a question about this setup. What do you think? I mean, that looks pretty good to me. What we got here is a capacitor and a TVS diode, a FETTech spike absorber. I would cut these legs off. I assume you're going to cut these legs off. So those don't need to be there. These exposed contacts here are probably pretty safe, but I would probably cover them up anyway. You could use conformal coating, or you could heat shrink the whole thing. You put a lot of effort into this heat shrink there. I'm kind of impressed. Yeah, this is fine. This is pretty good. Aerobrat says, I stopped running capacitors since Cricket told me they were for wusses. No issues since. I don't know why Cricket is out there saying capacitors are for wusses. That's like saying seatbelts are for wusses. Okay, good luck. Have fun with that. Would the legs be for attaching it to the quad, asks Bad for Life. Well, you're going to solder wires to those legs, yeah. But you're going to solder wires to it. You just don't want the naked legs hanging off. Always Hath Been wants to know, what would cause my OSD to roll independently from the actual image? And then my analog camera seemed to lose power while the VTX continued to broadcast the OSD over a gray screen. Both of those things, especially the gray screen, point to camera problems. The OSD rolling while the image is stable still theoretically could be a camera problem. But since you know the camera is powering down, I would check the power to the camera. If it's running off 5 volts, then probably you would know if the 5-volt regulator was having a problem because the receiver would brown out. But maybe swap the camera out, check the wiring. There you go. MPFPV says, Cricket's freestyling a Hero 9. He clearly has no concern for safety. Good point. Good point. I'm not sure that a teacher, an instructor once told me that when someone gives you advice, you have to take into account their perspective. And if they're not coming from the same perspective from you, then their advice isn't going to apply to you. So when Cricket says capacitors are for wusses, you got to ask yourself, am I Cricket? How many GoPros have you returned to Best Buy? How many motors have you replaced? What's your budget for blown flight controllers and ESCs? And if yours is less than Cricket's, maybe run a capacitor. Maybe. Could it be a PAL NTSC mismatch, asks Beantime. Beantime, if you got a PAL NTSC mismatch, then usually your OSD will be flickery or faded out, but it won't be rolling. And the screen sure won't go blank. No, I don't think so. Regis Semekivikius. It's my best chance. It was my best shot at your name, Regis. Thank you for a 10-pound super chat. Just started up in FPV. Thank you for all the help. Thank you, Regis, for the donation. Slevin, thank you for a $5 super chat. Never shave your beard off. Beards for the win. I mean, if I'm not going to have hair on my head, I may as well have hair on my face, right? You can see I'm not bald. Not yet. I'm working on it, though. I know where this is going. Look at Joe Rogan. Now, I'm not saying we should all strive to be like Joe Rogan. There are many positive and some questionable things about Joe Rogan, which we don't need to go into. But I will say this about him. That man knew when to shave his head. Let's look at young Joe Rogan. Ooh, young Joe Rogan. Look at that guy. Where's Joe Rogan? There we go. Joe Rogan from the Fear Factor days. See, look, it's already happening. You see how he's combing his hair forward? He's hiding the receding hairline by pulling his hair forward. Nobody's fooled. Nobody's fooled, Joe. You're not fooling anybody. Now here he started shortening it up. Oh, this is just a... Here he started shortening it up, right? It's not shaved, but he's shortening it up. Oh, look at that happy man. But he finally just went, screw it. We're going bald. And now you can't tell. You can't tell how much hair he has. It just looks like he's a yeah, good move. That's who I'm emulating. I'm going to be like Joe Rogan. Going to have a freezer full of elk meat. And promote, what is it? New Brain. What do you call it? Yeah. Why would you not run a capacitor? Why would you? What's the downside? It takes up a tiny bit of space and a tiny bit of weight, and Cricket doesn't give a crap about weight anyway. It's just a stupid macho stunt. There is no downside to running a capacitor, and it's going to save your ESCs. Why would you not run a capacitor? No, he has hair, Cyclimbo. He has hair. He's not completely bald naturally, I guarantee. I guarantee you can kind of see where his hairline actually is. But it's receding for sure. It's a you can't fire me, I quit situation is what I call it. I can't go bald if I just shave my head. Anyway. I'm going to have to work out 3 hours a day. Oh, no, I'm never going to have his build. Never going to have his build. Jeez. I got too much. I got to make YouTube videos. I would say YouTubers aren't fit, but look at frickin' Logan Paul or Jake Paul or whichever Paul it is. Guy's buff. Yeah. Gonna get started on some HGH. And let me ask you this. If you take steroids but don't work out, do you get ripped? No. I don't think it works like that. Bannister Post, you have a great question. Bannister Post says, sorry to bring up Chris Rosser again. Don't be sorry. Chris Rosser is amazing. Sometimes people have been like, hey, sorry to bring up Chris Rosser. No. He's a smart man and he says smart things. There's no shame in bringing him up. They're like, hey, I heard Chris Rosser talked about your frame. Chris Rosser said positive things about my frame, and he pointed out some areas. Like, every frame is going to have resonance, and he talked about where my resonance was and what you could do about it. There's no, I mean, it wasn't like the Apex where he was like, oh my God, this frame is amazing. So, we could have hoped for better, but if there's things you could do to make a frame fly better, there's no shame in saying them as long as they're accurate. So there's no beef there. So no shame in bringing him up. His tuning suggestions point to VTX antennas adding vibration when using TPU mounts. Let's talk about that. Hold on. Now, he talked about, by the way, enjoy my not a sarong. Thank you. I'm sure I'm going to hear about that in the comments. It is a Turkish towel. My wife bought a bunch of them. They're better than sarongs. I wouldn't normally have shown you that, but there you go. I trust you. So the quad where he talked about the antenna adding vibration, first of all, it was a Nazgul right? Maybe a Sedora. I don't remember which. Look at this GoPro mount. Do you see? This is the GoPro mount. I believe was the same one he did. Do you see that it is just a little piece of TPU? It's just hanging off back here. There's nothing stiffening it up. Compare that to. Oh, can I reach? Yes, I can. Compare that to something like this, which is the Diatone. This is the Diatone Roma F5. Look at the difference. Do you see? Now, this is still TPU. Do you see that this is a much stiffer mount? It is boxed in and braced. It still has some give. It is a world of difference from the Sedora, though, which is just literally a little tab of TPU with no bracing and no reinforcement. So when he said, oh, the camera, the antenna hanging off the back here is a resonance issue, my first thought was, I would love to see you repeat that result with a more robust way of holding the antenna. Because I think that's the worst. And obviously, anytime you have something long hanging off the end of something, you're going to get resonance. That's a fact. But I think that he was looking at the worst case scenario. And the other thing was, there's a point where you've done enough. There's a point that Chris Rosser's his tuning guide recommendation, or his tuning principle that he mentioned in my QAVS frame review, is that he wants the D gain to be as high as possible. Because he feels like that makes his quad fly better. Therefore, the less frame resonance there is, the less filters you can get away with, the higher your D gain can be without smoking your motors. Those are all true statements, but I don't agree that you want your D gain as high as possible. I don't think that cranking your D gain to the absolute limit necessarily, I mean, that lets you get your P gain high. It does produce a quad that flies a certain way, but I don't think that it's necessarily the place where everybody wants to be. So the question is, when have you done enough? If you've done enough, if your filters are where you're happy with them being, and your PIDs are where you're happy with their being, and your quad is flying in a way that you're happy with it flying, then the fact that, well, maybe this is making additional resonance that you could get rid of. I mean, in this case, this is easy. You can just redesign this 3D print to have an additional point of contact with the standoff, and it would, I bet it would clean up a lot of that resonance. I don't know. But Chris is, in a sense, I hesitate to say this because now, again, people are going to read this as criticism or beef, and it totally isn't. Chris is very much looking at these. He's got a hammer, and his hammer is resonance analysis. And that is the lens through which he looks at his frame analysis. And that's great. And in fact, if, as he said in the QAVS video, his goal is to maximize the P&D gain, that's actually the right approach. But like I said earlier, when we were talking about cricket and capacitors, you got to ask yourself, is that also my goal? Is that my sort of sole goal? And it's not, I don't agree that that's necessarily the only thing you should be thinking about. Yeah. Because there's frames out there with objectively bad resonance that are some of people's favorite frames and fly great most of the time. Objectively, a frame with good resonance characteristics will fly better for more people. But just because a situation or a quad or a build might have some bad resonance doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. So, mentioned using another material. I wouldn't use anything except TPU. Any rigid material is, like he said, I think he did suggest using a rigid material. I don't remember what material he suggested. Any rigid material is just going to break, period. Period. The reason we use TPU is because it's the only thing that holds up to the hits that we give. So, anyway. So if you want to go, and it's where you go to, what are the trade-offs I'm making? So he suggested using a different material than TPU for the antenna mount. And my thought was, like, what? I mean, I guess nylon, maybe nylon, but PLA, PETG, they're going to explode. They're just going to explode. They're going to crack and break. No question. And the advantage of TPU being flexible is that it saves the antenna from breaking in a crash, which is very valuable. Not 100% of the time. So by going to a rigid material which would have better resonance characteristics, you would decrease the durability of the quad. Is that a trade-off that's necessary to make and worth making? He also suggested going to a stubby antenna, which would reduce the lever arm and reduce the magnitude of the resonance. 100% true. But a stubby antenna is going to have worse range. Is that a trade-off you're willing to make? So there you go. Yeah, B-Man FPV, that was a point. Ryan Harrell and I, we're in a private group chat with Chris, and one of the things that Ryan and I both raised was that if you maximize D-gain, you will produce, if you maximize P and D-gain and minimize filtering, you will produce a very smooth flying quad, but it will be very, very sensitive. If you bend a prop, you could go immediately and smoke a motor or have flyaway. And by not maximizing your D-gain, you can have a more resilient quad. So, MPFPV wants to know where I got the model for printing the antenna mount. That came with the frame. I don't know if it's public. So I would say that everything Chris says is gospel truth, first of all. That doesn't necessarily mean that his priorities are the same as yours and that you would necessarily take every conclusion or recommendation he makes as being right for you. And the antenna recommendation was the first time where I watched one of his videos and I went, I don't know if I agree with that. You know? I mean, he's right, but I don't know if I agree that that's the right choice to make. How about mounts like this? Asks Huff19 in the Discord. Like, obviously, you'd have to do a resonance analysis. You could look at your black box and you could tell. I mean, to me, that seems superior to the way that the iFlight did it, because you have these vertical pieces which are going to stiffen it up, whereas theirs is just a flat piece of TPU coming out the back, which is very floppy. It feels like this will have better resonance than the iFlight one. The fact that you're using a stubby antenna, of course, also helps, and the fact that this is a square box is supposed to have good stiffness characteristics. There's no real weight out at the end of this one, so that probably may not make much of a difference. Ryan Hall, thank you for a $5 super chat. Mystery Druid, thank you for a $5 super chat. Mystery Druid says, I'd love to chip in here in Utah. Working photographer, decent pilot, not a working pilot. Nuke group on FPV. Thank you for the donation there. Ray at 9, thank you for 420 Australian. For Pepsi and Hikers. Nice. Airbnb and D and Trout. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Pilot Extreme, thank you for 2 Canadian. Are you participating in IGAO 3? I don't think I will be participating. I am sponsoring a couple prizes, but I already have a lot of things on my to-do list, and the need to put in the video every week, I think, would stress me out. I will be watching IGAO 3 with great enjoyment, though, and best of luck to the people who are in there. Julian Curtis in the YouTube chat wants to know, can anyone tell me why Drib had a spoiler on his drone? Does it have a purpose? No, it is a joke. It's a joke. Bubby putting a spoiler on his drone. It's a joke. There is no purpose to putting a spoiler on the drone. It makes the quad fly worse. It's a car thing. It's dumb. It's just a joke. Julian Curtis, thanks for a $5 super chat. I'm buying my first 5-inch freestyle drone. My budget is $200. I would prefer if it ran 4S 1300 because I have some. Any suggestions? I'm going to suggest that we check out my new page on my website, Ultimate FPV Shopping List. The new page is the 5-inch freestyle page. I already have updates that I need to make to this page. It just went live yesterday. But the Diatone Roma F5 V2 is out, for example. So the F5 needs to get replaced with the V2. Shh. I think you're going to struggle to find a 5-inch under $200 today, though. Nazgul 5 V2 for $220 is getting pretty close. $189 is out of stock, though. It's $189, but it's not. It's not in stock anywhere. Yeah, so I think the Nazgul V2 or the Diatone Roma F5 V2 are my go-to, but I don't think they're going to be under $200. Mike Bergman, why would you want downforce on your quad? First of all, the entire body of the quad is a wing creating downforce, but that's not a good thing. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Just makes the back motors work even harder than they already are. It's bad. It's bad. Robin Duckett, thanks for a £5 super chat. Airbnb and Trout, thank you for another $5. Bannister Post, $7 Canadian. Thank you so much. Thanks for putting my mind at ease. Also looking forward to your QAVS PID tune. Vic and Air FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. Video stretching in 1/8 of the scan lines happens with 900 and 2.4 gigahertz. 5-inch spread out build down to cramped 3-inch toothpick build. Video stretching in 1/8 of the scan lines. Vic and Air, I can't even picture what you're talking about, and I'm not even sure how the receiver would be causing that. Can I see DVR? Vic and Air, will you send me DVR of what you're talking about? Because I'm not even able to really picture it. Jason McIntosh asks, do you recommend the Skyliner HD as a noob freestyle drone? So here's the thing. Skyliner HD built and tuned. This is the built and tuned bundle. $600. If you were to buy all these parts yourself, they'd probably come in closer to, it's with an air unit. They'd probably come in closer to $450. Some people say $600 is a ripoff. I'm not gonna weigh in on that. Some people are willing to pay somebody else to build their drone for them, and some people aren't. That's totally your call. But a beginner should not be spending $600 on their first drone under any circumstances, unless you just have so much freaking money you don't even care. In which case, just do whatever you want. A beginner should be a beginner should build their own, because you need to learn how to build, because you need to know how to repair. But if you're going to buy a ready to fly, you should be buying a $250 like the Nazgul 5 V2, like the Diatone Roma F5, like the Gepar C Mark IV. You should be buying a ready to fly in the $200 to $250 budget if you're buying a ready to fly versus building your own. Because here's the thing, you're going to smash it. You're going to lose it in a pond or a tree or a bush. There's no reason you should be spending $450 or $600 on your first drone. So no, I don't recommend the Skyliner or any other high-end boutique build for a beginner, because you will just destroy it and waste your money, unless you just have a ton of money to spend. Is the Skyliner relevant anymore? Asks MPFPV. I feel like no one flies that thing. Yeah, some people questioned why the Skyliner was on my webpage. I went looking around for companies that build like custom bespoke quads, because I didn't want just all ready to flies. I wanted to support some of the companies doing bespoke builds. And Rotor Riot, like I looked at the different ones that Rotor Riot had. Drone parts and equipment, FPV drones, and like here's the CL1 built-in tune. I guess that's only $329. That's analog too. That's probably needs to be on the list. If you wanted a built-in tuned, you probably would rather have the CL1 than the Skyliner as a beginner. But I mean, there's a very compelling argument that you should be just buying a $250 bind and fly. I mean, granted, you're supporting an American company. That's not nothing. Some people don't really care. It's something. What else do they have built-in tuned? Moongoat built-in tuned. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, no. Air unit only. That's Vista. I don't see, this is the thing. Is stock available? Really? They have Vistas? I don't think they have Vistas. Part of the reason why I picked the Skyliner. Huh. Vanny style built-in tuned. Huh. No, you're right. I probably... Oh, I hate how he's done the capacitor. That's such a terrible way to do the capacitor. I mean, I personally would probably take the Vanny style or the Moongoat. What flight controller are they putting on these? They're still using the Hobbywing X-Rotor. Somebody was really critical of the fact that they're using an F4 flight controller. Like, I don't know. It's not the end of the world. 629. I guess that's with DJI. The Skyliner, does anybody fly the Skyliner? I mean, Drib still flies it. That's certainly saying something. Yeah. Of these, I would probably... I don't... Interesting. I would probably take the Moongoat. The Vanny style is Kiss, which you know... No, it isn't. Doesn't he switch to Kiss? Why is the X-Rotor here? That doesn't add up. What does the Moongoat have? That's not even Cricket's build. Cricket flies the Cricket stack. Why are they putting the X-Rotor on? They're just putting the X-Rotor on all of these. Weird. Yeah. The Skyliner is an incredibly durable frame. I will say that. Drew bashes the crap out of it, and it just keeps flying well. I feel like it doesn't get a lot of credit for that. And it carries a full air unit. It's a workhorse, yeah. Anyway. I mean, he still flies it because it's his frame, but I mean, it does prove that it will hold up. The Vanny spec has Kiss, the Vanny style. I don't know. Vanny style built and tuned bundle. It's just the frame and the motors. That's all they're doing. They're not really building a Vanover quad. I thought Vanover switched to Kiss for his freestyle build, but here is the Vanny style built and tune. I don't see anything else. And the Cricket one doesn't have his flight stack. So they're just building the frame and the motors. It just says Moongoat built and tuned. It doesn't say Cricket build. Yeah. Vanny style Pro Step back built and tuned. Aha. Yeah. There you go. That's the FET Tech, but it's out of stock. Okay. Anyway. Maybe I'll go back and re-examine those questions. The difference between Cricket and Drib. The question is, does Cricket or Drib fly harder? I will say Cricket crashes a lot. Drib crashes a lot too. The difference is that Drib crashes and his quad keeps flying. Cricket crashes, breaks something, and gets another quad out and then flies it. Drib's quads just keep flying. I think people don't really give him enough credit. We got a question here from Airbnb and Trout. Thank you for a $5 super chat. What's up with activating the DJI Cadix Air units? Can't seem to get Assistant 2 to recognize the units. 2 separate computers, multiple reinstalls. They should at least recognize when the unit's plugged in. Are you powering the units up? You can't just plug in USB. You have to power the unit up. I'm going to guess that's what's going on, because I was surprised about that when I first ran into it. Thank you, SACFPV, for a $5 super chat. Thank you, Steve Olson, for a $10 super chat. No question, just thank you for being you. I just slapped together a 7-inch iFlight XL7 and tuned it. Never been so surprised at how a giant quad runs so well. Yeah, Bad for Life, good suggestion. You also need to be using the Assistant 2.1, not the 2.0 Assistant. Good point. It is powered on, damn. Are you using Assistant 2.1? Falcon FPV says, I just finished my AOS 5 build with GoPro Hero 7 Black, 1300 milliamp hour 6S. Ooh, that's a chonker. And air unit. Air unit, not Vista? Weighed in at 741 grams. That's pretty good considering the size of battery in the full air unit. Aber the Ham reminds us that there are 2 different versions of the Assistant, the DJI Assistant. It needs to be the FPV version. Boot DSC says, I just built the QAVS JB and I'm getting a lot of vibrations. Where do you start in the diagnosis? Mechanical analysis of the quad. What's loose? Is there something loose? Are the arms loose? Are any screws loose? I mean, it's a brand new build, so probably not. Then flight controller mounting. Bad gyro on the flight controller, and so on. That's the direction I would go. Let's see here. Who breaks more arms, Cricket or Drib? I think Cricket, because his arms are thinner. I think the Skyliner is a more durable frame than the Moon Goat. It's a heavier frame than the Moon Goat. So, I mean, there's trade-offs. Do you recommend the Zing 2 motors for a 5-inch freestyle rig, asks JTGRC. Absolutely. The Zing 2 are great motors. 2306, 2207, wonderful for 5-inch freestyle. And a good price. If you're getting a lot of vibrations, certainly a good choice. Bannister Post suggests that you try different props. Yeah, I mean, what kind of vibration are you getting, I guess is the question. Is it like twitchy gyro vibration? Or is it like jello in the camera vibration? Patty FPV, the stack screws on the QAVS do not interact with the arms at all. The QAVS stack screws have no bearing on whether the arms are tight. I think you're incorrect there. Boot DSC says, when pulling out of a dive and hitting about mid-throttle, it's just a bizarre shaking I haven't seen before in other quads. I mean, that sounds like prop wash oscillation. You could try implementing Chris Rosser's filtering suggestions, which may help. Morton Upshot says, what's the downside of putting a 1,000 milliwatt VTX on a mini micro 1103 sized quad? The weight. The weight is the answer. Also, those high power VTX, oftentimes they need VBAT, at least 2S. So you would need to be running at least 2S voltage. SL in the YouTube chat. SL asks, DSMX receiver to TX RX S-Bus on the Beta FPV HX115 flight controller. If it's a DSMX receiver, it's going to go to UART RX, not TX, not S-Bus. Buddha FPV says, why don't my filter sliders stay in the same spot after switching profiles? Buddha, if you're switching PID profiles, the filter sliders are part of the PID profile, aren't they? Am I wrong about? I would have to double check that. Are the filter sliders tied to the PID profile? I'm not going to double check it right now, but that could be why. Also, are you hitting the save button? That would be a good idea. If you're not hitting the save button, that's why. Buamat thank you for a $5 super chat. New to FPV, I recently got the Diatone F5, noticing it feels like I lack control after doing a hard acceleration then cutting power. Would air mode help here? Yes, absolutely. Air mode specifically gives additional control at low throttle. So, yes, absolutely, you want air mode on. Steve Olson, thank you for a $10 super chat. I have no question, just thank you for being you. Just slapped together. Oh, I already read that one. Thank you, Steve Olson. Boot FPV confirms he's saving. If you're changing the PID profile, Ciati confirms that D-term filtering is tied to the rate profile. Gyro filtering is not. So if you're changing the PID profile, your D-term slider will move. Whit Mead wants to know, if you had the choice to rebuild a 4S CL1 into 6S with a new stack motors and VTX, or buy a QAVS frame and put the new stack motors VTX in it and keep the CL1 as is, which would you do? Personally, I would always build a new quad versus rebuilding an old quad. If I had all the parts for a new quad except the frame, I would save up for a new frame and build a brand new quad, as opposed to putting those parts in it. And I would keep the old quad. Like, if you have 4S motors, you might be able to run 6S on them, run 6S batteries with a motor output limit, and still be able to have, then you have two quads instead of one. So. Yeah, I'd always rather have two quads versus one. JT Knives says, on your frame, is there a reason why the 20x20 stack screws are M3 size, not M2? Had to use an adapter to fit my 20x20 as the holes would not fit the larger screws. Yeah, that's a tough one. Some components use M3 and some use M2, and I'm not even sure which is more prevalent, to be honest with you. If you're using M3 holes, then you can use M2 screws. You just need a washer. That's the takeaway. You could use like 3D printed adapters. That's fine. You don't need to. You could just use a washer, an M2 washer. So I think the idea is that if we drill them to M3 and you want to use M2, you could easily just put a washer on there. But if we drill them to M2 and you want to use an M3, now you have to drill them out, and that's. I'm not sure which of those is more annoying. Maybe it's not as annoying to just drill them out. But I think that's the argument. Yeah, M3 you can easily adapt to M2 screws, but M2 you have to drill out to M3 size if that's what you want. I think a lot of 20mm stuff is M2, but I'm not sure that the majority is. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Thank you, Ryan Hall, for a $20 super chat. Just got a new Reckon 3 XM Plus receiver and brand new X9 Lite S, third day of no binding. Here's your problem, Ryan. The XM Plus receiver, actually, that's not true. So first of all, access isn't going to work. You want ACCST D16. And then your XM Plus receiver, can you check if your X9 Lite has firmware version 2.1 on it? Nope. Hang on. Yeah. So this video, I'm binding an X9 Lite. Flash new firmware to ArcSysR and X9 Lite. Yeah. This is what you... So I don't think the X9 Lite is shipping with firmware ISRM 2.10 and that's what you need. So what I'm going to suggest you do is, let me, Ryan Hall. Ryan, I think if you flash your X9 Lite to firmware ISRM version 2.1.0, the XM Plus already has ACCSD 2.1 on it. And I think that will fix your problem. Welcome to Free Sky firmware annoyance world. I could see an argument that if it was M2, it'd be easy to drill them out to M3. Somewhere out there, there's someone who doesn't own a drill. And it's going to be super... They're like, look, if you made them M3, I could just... you know what we could do? You know what we could do? And the guys that get FPV are now... They're like, why do I feel a sense of dread? We could just include some like silicon M2 bushings. I'm gonna ping Ryan Harrell about that. No, it'll raise the cost of the frame by 5 cents. No, hang on, I'm gonna do it right now. Sorry, live streamers. What do you think about including a set of 8 M3 to M2 silicone bushings or something, so people using M2 hardware could easily use their screws without having any additional hardware? Okay, let's see what he says. Oh, real man doesn't own a drill. I don't know if you know, Quad Dang, but women also are in FPV. Not that I would stereotype women as not owning drills, but also some men are girly men who live stream while wearing pink Turkish towels. That's really more purple than pink. And I do own a drill, for the record. I have a lot of hardware out in the barn. Nevertheless, you know, we don't want to assume. Ciati says having rubber grommets down there will allow the stack to wiggle, which was a problem in the Acrobrat. Yeah, I wonder about that. I mounted my Cadix Vista with just M2 washers, and that worked fine. No one should need a pass for not owning power tools, Quad Duck. Some people just don't own power tools. It's okay. There's no, like... You don't need power tools. Yeah. You could 3D print some step-down washers. What about if it wasn't silicone? What if it was something else? I don't know. Brass sleeve. That's an interesting idea. Yeah. Montana Drone says, I picked up 5 working drills for free at the dump. My dump doesn't let you take stuff away. They won't let you dumpster dive at the dump. They don't want you doing that. I mean, steel? I don't care. Monkey Shine FPV says, have you tried the Sovol SVO2 dual color printing machine? It's funny you asked that. I talked about this a little bit on yesterday's stream. I don't think that 3D printers with 2 extruders and a single combining hot end. I mean, I received one of them. It was the G-Tech. Whatever G-Tech model has that feature. They sent me one, and I couldn't get it to work right. and I sent it to a friend of mine here in Knoxville who has been 3D printing for years, and like he's my go-to when I have questions, and he couldn't get it to work right. And so there's these complications with a dual a Y combining extruder or a hot end. One of the complications is that the filament is there as one filament starts extruding, it builds up sort of back pressure in the other one, and also you just waste a ton of filament in the purge tower when it switches from one color to the other. It's like I just am not. I would rather just swap filament than do that. It didn't seem like a real good idea. Or have a dual filament machine if that's what you want to do, like with 2 extruders and 2 hot ends. I'm not a fan of the SVO2. I declined to review this G-Tech printer that they sent me because I couldn't get good results with it. And I was just like, forget it. Like I wasn't confident enough that I wasn't the problem. If I was confident that the machine was at fault, then I would have done the review and I would have said, this thing sucks, don't buy it. But I wasn't confident enough that it was like not me that was the problem to do that. So I sort of compromised by not reviewing it. But then when the Sovol SVO2 came out with the same feature, I was like, I don't think this is a good idea, and I also didn't review it. So that's what I'll say. Jesse Herman wants to know, is GepRC a legit company? Is it safe to order from them? I would say they are in the upper end of legit in this hobby. They're still a Chinese company, and they may not have the degree of communication and customer service that some Americans or Europeans would prefer. But as companies go in the FPV hobby, they seem to do pretty good. Their products are generally pretty good. Their products are generally pretty reliable. They don't just like die on day one. I mean, nothing's perfect, but in general, I think they're towards the top of the pile. And their customer service, while certainly I'm sure there are people out there who have had bad customer service experiences with any company, I feel like they're not at the level of we'll just ignore your emails and never talk to you and tell you to go to hell. So yeah, GepRC, anybody in the chat who has had an experience with GepRC is welcome to chime in. Here, actually, let's do this. Let's use this new feature. Is GepRC a legit FPV company? Are they safe to buy from? Yes or no? All right, I'm putting up a poll. Let's see what you guys say. Let's see. Where's the poll? Where'd the poll go? It's disappeared. Oh, there it is. All right. We're going to see how this goes. I've never used... This is a new feature on YouTube. We're going to see how this poll goes. Okay. 88% yes, 12% no. We'll let that run for a minute. We used to have to use a third-party website to do that. It's pretty cool that they added it in. And if you don't know, don't answer, okay? Crunk says GepRC lights on fire. Like, I had a problem with my GepRC Mark IV. The flight controller in it was pinned to the ESC. It had direct stacking pins, which, if you don't know, in the vibration from a quad, the stacking pins, they break and they wallow out, and the ESC loses connectivity with the flight controller. And I went back to GepRC and I said, this is the design defect. You can't do this. And I made a video that said, don't buy the GepRC Mark IV as long as it has this problem. And GepRC said, oh, you know, we just sent you some, those were some prototypes. We actually fixed that already. I'm like, okay. So it's not perfect. And they did fix it. But the people who got those prototypes weren't happy about it. B-Man FPV says, I have a few GepRC quads. They've always been pretty solid. The only thing I can say is the toothpick boards have the pin set connectors between the stacks and they are super fragile. Yeah, I don't like those pin connectors between boards. Currently looks like the poll is 87% yes to 13% no. GEPRC is a legit FPV company. Are they safe to buy from? Yes. GEPRC have some of the best 3-inch frames and motors, says MSH. Swear to Yeezy says, do you think you'll do a video on the Happy Model Express LRS module kit for the Jumper T-Lite? The module is $40 unless you get insane range on 2.4 gigahertz on a $75 radio. Maybe. Maybe. I do want to do a video about 2.4 gig Express LRS. All right, we're going to end this poll. The poll is overwhelmingly yes. GEPRC is a legit FPV company. Are they safe to buy from? You want to do it for beta FPV? We'll have to see. I can't start another poll right now. Oh, there we go. Okay. Is Beta FPV a legit FPV company? Are they safe to buy from? Let's see how that comes out. We'll let that roll while we continue the live stream. Martin Wynn, thank you for £5 in the super chat. I ordered waiting on a flight controller for the Eashi Novice, waiting on a Flywoo Explorer and a Diatone 3-inch bind and fly. While I was waiting, I ordered an iFlight Nautical 5. Waiting. Welcome. You found stuff in stock, so that's good. Now you just gotta wait. Bannister Post says, I've been dealing with GEPRC for a few months. The communication hasn't been easy, but they are committed to helping their customers. Yeah, the thing is, customer service everywhere sucks. DJI customer service sucks. What I mean by that, I guess I should say tech support. DJI tech support sucks. They just give objectively wrong information. And so when you say, I emailed GEPRC or whoever about this problem with the flight controller, and they gave me the runaround and they gave me bad advice. Yeah, I mean, I can't be, it sucks, but if DJI can't get that right, then who can? They're a real consumer electronics company. So I don't hold that too against anybody. There definitely are companies who are better. Newbie Drone tech support is really good, mostly, for example. Any Chinese company, you're going to usually struggle a little bit with their tech support. You know who does a really good job, though, is iFlight. iFlight tech support and their knowledge base is so good. They are good. And they are trying. They are committed. iFlight has a knowledge base. They have a Freshdesk tech support website. They have a Google Drive with all of the config dumps from all their quads, manuals, wiring diagrams. They even have a guy here in the United States who is their USA based, and I think they added one in Europe now. And he's just a guy here in America who does tech support for them. iFlight is one of the best in terms of tech support and customer service. No question. All right, let's see here. Beta FPV. Is Beta FPV a legit FPV company? Are they safe to buy from? 120 votes trickling in. 65% to 35%. Yes. Not quite as good a ratio, but still pretty good. Sawhill FPV, if you're having a problem with the screen on your HDO2 goggles, Fat Shark Support is the one to talk to. They may have you send them in, and they may replace the screen. Amin Ra says, I burned through 2 of iFlight's 60mm stacks the ESC's fried. I doubt I'll try them again. I would probably do the same thing. 16mm stacks are pretty fiddly to begin with. I haven't tried them. I mean, obviously, yeah, you would absolutely need, capacitors and so forth. I've had good luck with iFlight flight controllers. But I only do the 30mm ones, to be fair. Is the iFlight Titan XL5 frame any good? Matthew Van Kleentz wants to know. It's heavy. It's okay for a beginner, maybe who wants durability more than performance. Abraham says, safe to buy from is a different question than what people are actually wondering. It shouldn't be confounded with quality products. All these companies are safe in that they will deliver a product and not steal your financial information, but quality is hit or miss. I mean, I don't know about that. Like, there's companies out there that you could ask the question, is Banggood safe to buy from? I'm not going to put a poll up, but, and some people would say no, because like with any company, if you get a good product, like, it's not like they're just going to take your money and not send you a product. But the question is, if you get a bad product, then what happens? And some companies are going to be way more accommodating than others. And people would say it's not safe to buy from because they're not accommodating enough. Interesting. Which stack was it that had the M3 hardware? Ryan Harrell thinks that most 20 by 20 stacks are M3. It's the Zeus 35. Certainly the VTXs and stuff that go in the rear holes are M2. Israel Castellan, thank you for a $20 super chat. I'm trying to set up remote recording on the SMO 4K. Would the record power button blue wire go to VBAT? I don't think so. No. I saw it. No, do not put anything on VBAT except VBAT. You will fry the shit out of it. Do not put record power button blue wire on VBAT, please. I saw another diagram saying to put it on R1 on the flight controller. That's wrong, right? No, I don't think that's wrong. With the SMO 4K, to set up remote recording, you're going to connect the record button wire to R1, which is presumably what the diagram shows, and then you're going to use resource remapping and the pin IO function to remap that to be to be controlled by the aux mode. People listing different stacks. Abraham says most 20 by 20 stacks are M3, except for the most important 20 by 20 stack, the Vista. So I wonder if the right thing to do would be to leave the central 20mm holes as M3 for flight controllers, but make the rear ones M2. I think you're the odd man out there, JT Knives, with a 20mm flight controller. A lot of the 20 by 20 high-end boards are M3. That's my impression, too. Yeah. Sorry, now I'm talking to Ryan while you guys watch me live stream. But that's what you get for getting the most up-to-date information. We've got a suggestion right here from McMaster Carr, and let's face it, you could always get an answer from McMaster Carr. Here are some some oversized washers, and probably what you would want is a sleeve washer, wouldn't you? Here's a sleeve washer. Maybe that would be good. I don't know. Or an oversized washer. I just have regular M2 washers and they work. But then there's also these M2 to M3 brass columns. Now, how does that work? Outer diameter M3, inner diameter M2. But, did you cut them off? Are they shorter length? How's that work? I'm not really picturing how that works, Callisto. There's more sizes. Are there more? Where are they? I don't see the other sizes. Oh, here's a Ray. Oh, Race Day Quads comes through in a pinch. Thank you very much, MPFPV. This is your bingo. M2 to M3 adapter 10-pack. Bingo. That's what you need. $1. $1. That could work really well. So yeah, I think M3 in the center is certainly the right way to go. Maybe M2 in the rear would be a better decision. We could think about that. But you could always just get a washer and space it down. TXBone66 wants to know, thank you for $5 in the super chat, TXBone. How does Vanover do what he does with those insane rates? I know, his rates are so slow. They're like 700 degrees per second. If you watch what he does, he never does ultra snappy things that would require 900, 1100 degrees per second. His moves are very smooth and controlled. In a way, his rates define his style. So that's it. You could just copy his rates. His rates are up on the Rotoride store, aren't they? Aren't they? If you look on the Rotoride store, you can search for rates. And they're just put on the store as a $0 item. You don't have to buy them. It's just an easy way of saving them on the store. Each of the pilot's rates are up on the store as a $0 item. No, that's not right at all. What the F? No, are you kidding me? What? That's a total typo. My yaw rate is not 1346. Holy Jiminy. We'll have to get that fixed. That's not right. But Vanover's rates, are they right? Yeah, those, 476. I thought he was higher than that. That's his race rate, right? Does he use those for freestyle? I thought he was closer to 700. Hang on. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him. I don't run yaw that high. Oh, my yaw is like 800 or 900. I think around 700 to 900 is a great place to be for freestyle. There certainly are pilots who fly much higher rates with a lot of expo, and the problem with that is that you get a very sudden onset of that snap. Here's the thing I say. If you think you need 1100 degrees per second, 1300 degrees per second to have really snappy flips and rolls, do me a favor. Do some 180s for me. Just boop, boop. Do some TikTok 180s. Do some 360s. Shoot, shoot, shoot. If you don't hit the horizon like within 5 degrees every time, your rates are too high. You can't be if your rates are so high that you can't be precise, your rates are too high. That's my opinion. And you're losing a ton of precision in the center to mid stick. It was using low rates for racing that convinced me to lower my freestyle rates. I raced with 400 to 500 degrees per second, and I had so much more I started racing with my freestyle rates, which at the time was around 1100 degrees per second with a ton of expo. And so my stick movements were just like tiny little stick movements. Because as soon as I deflected the stick, the quad was doing flippy flops. But you don't need flippy flops for racing. So I lowered my rates to 400 to 500 degrees per second. And here's what happens. Like, I was racing, just the other weekend, I was doing a video with Evan Turner. That's going to be coming out soon. And he was helping me get better at racing, basically, is the video. I missed a gate. I overshot the gate or something, and I needed to quickly correct. And I just banged the stick to full deflection, and it was the right amount. It was not so much that the quad went... I just sort of rotated back in so I could see the gate and fix my line. And I thought, that just proves that lower rates are better for racing, because you want to be able to hit the stops every now and then and still have good results. So it was the lower rates for racing that made me convinced that I also needed lower rates for freestyle. I had so much more control at lower rates. For racing, I've been using the 533 rates, but I've added some expo. That is not my... no, that's not the TX16S Max. I've been doing a video... Hey. I've been doing a video about updating to Edge TX, and so I have an extra radio here to test with. 533 rates are slow, but actually I was surprised at how sensitive the center was. I run 533 rates with 0.35 expo. And I found I wanted more center stick softness, personally. Is actual rates just another way to see the rates, or does it make it feel different? Actual rates is a different way to enter the rate information in a way that makes the rate configuration make sense more than the way that Betaflight does it. In actual rates, you put the center stick sensitivity, the full stick sensitivity, and then there's a curve like an expo parameter. But it's a lot more intuitive to tune. But if you already have a rate curve you like using traditional Betaflight rates, then just use it. There's no reason to. It is true that you can make certain rate curves that are difficult to make with regular Betaflight rates that some people like. Like really flat in the center and then a sort of a weird curve at the end. Actual rates can do that, but Betaflight rates can't really. But because I already have Betaflight rates that I like and I'm used to, there's no reason for me to switch to actual rates. I already have a rate curve that works for me. OGK Kid says, what's the difference between EmuFlight and Betaflight? EmuFlight is a fork of Betaflight, which means that someone took the whole Betaflight project, copied it, and then started making changes. Don't freak out. That's okay. It's an open source project. That is a thing that is encouraged and allowed. EmuFlight has different filtering and some changes to the PID and rate calculations. For example, it has dynamic rates that give a different stick feel that some people really like. T. Simon says he's hearing popping when I stop talking. Oh, there's an echo. Why is there an echo? Echo. That's weird. I have no idea where that could be coming from. Oh, it's coming from my headphones. It's because my headphones are close to the mic. So that won't happen if I turn off my headphones, though. No, it's not. I mean, it's not happening, I'm sure. Okay. My mic was just picking up my headphones. I think it's you, man. GeForce Alpha, thank you for a $20 super chat. Hey, Playa brother. Oh, somebody else has been out to the Playa. I have several Caddx Vistas that show no video using Nebula Pro or OG Vista Cam. 2 brand new Vistas as well as one old one. 2 different Nebula Pros, new in box. Neither work with any Vista. Nano works. If you've got a Vista that doesn't show video, it's got to be the camera cable. It's got to be the camera cable. If you have a Nebula that isn't showing video, make sure it's on the latest firmware. Some of the Nebulas shipped with firmware that didn't support the Nebula camera yet. So update the firmware. But you're saying it also doesn't show video with the OG Vista cam. It has to be either the camera or the cable. Those are the only two options. So if you have a working Nebula, then you know the cable is fine. At which point I would swap the other cameras in there. Ori Foxer says, I'm just catching up, but Spectrum SRXL2 goes to TX, not RX. That's correct, Ori Foxer, but this was way back at the beginning of the stream. If my memory's correct, he asked about SRXL, not SRXL2. Epchris, thank you for a $10 super chat. Have some travel coming up at the end of July. Really want a Pit Stop Pro, but I can't find one anywhere. Should I wait or pre-order or give up and try to get something else? It's your call there, man. It's your call. If you wait, who knows whether it'll come by the end of July. The Pit Stop Pro is a damn good bag. Most other things you would pick would be a compromise in some way. So that's a tough one. Zorian Passmore says, I can't find the 3D print file for the naked GoPro mount for the Flywoo Hex Nano on Thingiverse. Where would you find a 3D print file? I don't know if they've published that. I don't know if they've published that. Let's look on Thingiverse. Flywoo Hex Nano Naked GoPro. Nope. Let's just search for Flywoo Hex Nano. Nope. Okay, let's just search for naked GoPro mount. Nope. All right. Surely there's a naked GoPro mount. Is it the word naked that you don't like? Is it the word naked that you don't like? Yeah, it's the word naked. They don't like the word naked. Shoot. How could you search for that? Decased GoPro mount. Yeah, I don't know if there's a published version of that. Google search for Thingiverse files. Let's try Google. Well, you can buy it. There you go. You can buy it from Flywoo. They do not seem to have published it. You could buy it from... Oh, you could buy it from Race Day Quads. There's your answer. Has anyone made one? You could get it from FPV Exchange. Banggood. SN Hobbies. Let's search for STL. Yegi has Flywoo 3D models to print. Flywoo Explorer LR Naked GoPro. This may be it. Flywoo Explorer. This is for the Explorer, but I think the Explorer has the same shape front end as the Hexplorer. That may work. GoPro Session mount. No. Smo 4K mount. Close. GoPro mount. Yes, baby. I think this is what you want. Somebody's saying it was there. This may be the one you want. Flywoo Explorer. Rear. Naked GoPro modular mount. Yeah, that's what you want. Here's what I'm going to give you. There's a Yegi search for the Flywoo Naked GoPro, and people in the chat are confirming that the Explorer and the Hexplorer have the same top plate, so they're interchangeable for the GoPro mount. So you should be able to find what you want there. Good. Noozle3D, thank you for a $20 super chat. Nice seeing you again at Rampage. Thank you, Noozle. Good seeing you as well. Love what you do, and thanks for all the support you provide for the community. I would have personally never gotten the air if you didn't do what you do. Thank you so much. That's really kind. Does Flywoo publish the STL? Shut up. Oh my God. Really? Okay, well, I feel dumb. I mean, if Flywoo publishes the STL, they should absolutely get credit for it. 3D printed parts, GoPro mount. Is there a link to the STL here? Where is it? They took them down a while ago, but now they're back. No Fly Drones, you linked the STL, but I didn't. Try again, No Fly Drones. I don't see your message. Well, anyway. Zmergy, JWT, thank you for a $5 super chat. GOFF Naked Hero 8 kit. Yay or nay? GOFF? Naked Hero? What is that? You mean GetRC? GetRC has a Naked Hero. Yay or nay? I mean, if you don't want to decase your own, I mean, a Hero 8, you can get a Hero 8 cheaper than this and decase it. If you don't want to decase your own, more power to you. This is an unknown quantity, though. The weak spot on these has always been the voltage regulator, which sometimes lets the boards fry. Because I think the GoPro... Somebody told me the GoPro internally was rated for 4.5 volts, not 5 volts. So then when you run it off 5 volts, it's right on the edge and it just fries. Now this is... And now... So then you put a voltage regulator in there, but the voltage regulator may not be the best. That's a lot. That's a lot to spend. $449 is a lot to spend on a product that may not be reliable. But here's the thing. If you need a naked GoPro, what are your options? Because you're going to buy a Hero 8, you're going to decase it yourself, maybe you damage it, and then you're going to need to buy this case and this Beck board anyway. You're going to end up using this same hardware. So we'll have to check and see if it seems to hold up. But by the time you know if it holds up, then they'll be sold out and they won't exist anymore. So welcome to the world we live in. Ori Foxer says, Fatboy FPV sells naked GoPros too. I would feel good about buying from Fatboy FPV because I think I have a sense of how he runs his business. So... Cyclimbo, thank you for a $5 super chat, asks, is there a way to take real-world objects and turn them into 3D objects to work with for printing? Yeah, like if you have an iPhone, the depth sensing camera on the iPhone can be used to create 3D models. I thought I saw... a way to do that. Like I certainly am not an expert. There are some things that let you take photos and scan objects with photos. There are some things that use the depth sensing. I don't care. Use the depth sensing camera on the iPhone to do it. The thing is that the 3D model you end up with is going to be very, very rough and need a lot of cleanup. So although you can do it, it's still oftentimes better to just make something from scratch. So... We've got 5 minutes left in the stream, guys. We're coming up to the end of the stream. I guess the power has stayed on, so that's good. I do want to let you know, Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming on his channel at 10. He's going to start posting the link there pretty soon. So he'll let us know what he's got coming up tonight. I was thinking back about this comment from GeForce Alpha, who's talking about Burning Man. Burning Man's canceled this year because it was canceled last year because of the pandemic. It's canceled again this year. You know, some people went to the Playa. The Playa is just, it's Bureau of Land Management. Anybody can just go there. Some people went last year. They're going again this year, probably. More people are going to go this year. And I'm thinking about that. That, you know, everybody says Burning Man was cooler back in the day when it was smaller. This might be like the only opportunity to get to go to the Playa and have a Burning Man-like experience with only a few thousand people instead of 60,000 people. Interesting. Interesting. Unfortunately, this year BLM has implemented a lot of restrictions. For example, no burning on. You have to be 6 inches or 12 inches or something off the surface of the Playa. So no burning effigies or anything like that. So it should be interesting. Nevertheless, was that a yes or a no for Fatboy? Yes, Fatboy FPV is a pretty good company. He takes care of things, and I mean, I don't know if his naked GoPros are better. I mean, he builds a lot of Express LRS receivers and sells them, builds Express LRS modules and builds them. Basically, hand builds everything. Just one guy running a company out of his house or whatever. So, I don't know what he runs his company out of, but he seems to be pretty reliable. GeForce Alpha, thanks for a $5 super chat. No, I'm not down. It's good. I'm good. Yeah, no tickets to buy. The flip side is there's no tickets to buy, but also there will be none of the amenities. Not that Burning Man has a lot of amenities, but for example, there won't be porta potties this year. So, if you're going to go, you got to figure that out. And no, you can't just pee on the Playa. No. It's like protected environment. So then why do people drive cars out there? I don't know. You can't do it though. Anyway. A bike too many. You are correct that the burn platforms are dug into the Playa, dug out by DPW every year, and the fire is not actually literally on the lake bed. But this year BLM has said that they will not. All fires must be on an elevated platform. Probably large burn art is not going to happen, although who knows what they'll pull off. Also, I think last year art cars were allowed, but this year they're not allowing art cars. So I don't know how they're going to enforce that, but anyway, it's going to be an interesting year. That's going to bring us to the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. for the news with It's Plenty. And stick around. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming on his channel. He's posting the link here. People in the chat are really annoyed that someone would deny you the opportunity to pee on the Playa. Luke Beam says, I'll pee wherever I like. You can pee wherever you like, but BLM will ticket you. You can pee wherever you like, but BLM will ticket you. So, it's your call. I mean, if they see you do it, it's your call. Alrighty, guys. That's going to bring us to the end of the stream. Thank you so much. Have a great stream, Ciotti. Everybody have a great night. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the news.